The San Diego Padres season in 2023 did not go as expected, and there have been a lot of changes this offseason, including a massive trade of moving away Juan Soto. However, in this kind of reset offseason somewhat, or change, or whatever you want to call it, the Padres still do have some very good players and still could very well be competitive in the NL West. They're a team that has a lot of question marks, which means they've got to be answered. We're going to try and see if we can answer some of them right here. So let's not waste any time. My name is Derek. I'm here with Joey. You're watching Bleacher Brawls, and this is your San Diego Padres 2024 team profile.
Yeah, so my three key players are Xander Bogaerts, Machado, and Yu Darvish. I think Yu Darvish is an interesting case of a veteran who's maybe trying to maintain his place in the league, but I'm going to focus on Bogaerts. I'm going to pick on Bogaerts, actually. Being moved to second base, no longer being a shortstop, only 1 year or 2 years into his deal, it's pretty bad. Making his deal look really shoddy by now. But, if Mookie Betts can move to second base and maintain his offensive production, well, Bogaerts is going to have to move to second base and increase his offensive production to keep himself valuable. With Soto being gone, Xander's going to have to be like that OBP get-on-base guy, which he can do. So I think a lot of those responsibilities are going to fall on Bogaerts' shoulders.
Definitely. I think it is interesting, obviously, the moving towards second base. I know me and you have had a lot of debates in the past over whether Bogart's defense is actually good or not. It did get better as last year with the Red Sox. It was all right last year. But when you have a guy in Ha-Sung Kim, and this was a similar situation as I saw with Trevor Story with the Red Sox in the 1 year they were together, when you have a guy like Ha-Sung Kim who's so good defensively, you almost have to put him at shortstop because you lose a decent chunk of his value if he's not playing shortstop because he's that good defensively. So Ha-Sung Kim is one of my key players. I think Fernando Tatis, I think people didn't realize how good he was defensively last year. But I do want to focus on someone else that may be a little bit under the radar. I want to talk about Luis Campusano, who should be their starting catcher this year. Obviously, Gary Sanchez came in for them last year and did very well. But I think Campusano, I think this may finally be the year where he really can take the starting catching job. He made his MLB debut in 2020 where he played one game. He played 11 games in the big leagues in 21. Then he played 16 in 2022, and then last year he played 49 games. Feels like they're finally giving him the reins, it seems, to the catcher spot. He had a 134 weighted runs created plus in those 49 games he played. He had a 319 average as well. Only walked 4% of the time, but he also only struck out 12% of the time. Overall, very, very, very solid with the bat. Defensively, I think there's always going to be question marks in terms of framing and whatnot with him. He had negative 1.6 framing runs last year. But I think overall, I think he'll be a solid acquisition solid add into the everyday starting lineup for the Padres. I think he's ready for it, and I think there's no better time than now. I think they could have done it last year, but they're doing it this year. I think it's time for him to move into the starting lineup. Next up, now we talk about acquisitions here. I'm going to talk about some of their moves. Obviously, like I said, they traded Juan Soto and Trent Grisham to the Yankees, where they received Michael King, Drew Thorpe, Kyle Higashioka, Johnny Brito, and Randy Vasquez. They also made other moves as well, such as trading for Eniel De Los Santos. They traded Scott Barlow to get him. And then they signed a bunch of relievers, a trio of relievers, including Wandy Peralta, and then MLB newcomers Yuki Matsui from the NPB and Woo-Suk Go from the KBO. I'll hand it over to you, Joey. What other moves this offseason you think is important for them?
I'm going to dog on them. Soto. They traded Soto. The return for that is more important than anything because you just traded a generational player. And now they're going to be in the same situation the Red Sox were in at one point where they're going to be looking to feel like they won on that return. Michael King and all of that, all those prospects that got sent over, they're going to be looking for some results out of them very soon.
Yeah, I think the Soto trade's definitely a big deal. They also, too, you talk about Juan Soto and the fact that they not only traded a generational player, they traded a lot to get Juan Soto. They traded an arm and a leg to get Juan Soto. And you look at the guys who they dealt. C.J. Abrams is carving out a nice role for himself with the Nationals. Mackenzie Gore, another guy who's been solid, who'll be in their starting rotation. But then you also have James Wood, who looks very, very good in the minor leagues. Robert Hassel III also looks very good, and Jarlin Susana. it's the Soto trade's not just who they're getting for Soto. You're also going to look at who they gave up to get Soto in the first place. I think that's arguably even the bigger loss for them because they traded their whole entire farm system basically. All those guys were top prospects for them, and they moved them all to get Soto. I do want to focus on Yuki Matsui though, coming over from Japan from the NPB. He's been solid in Japan. He reached 200 saves last year. He's been one of the better closers in Japan. Lefty, although small stature, he stands at I think he's short. I think he's like 5'9", I think he is, or he's listed at 5'8", actually. He's real small. 5'8", 165 is what it's listed as. He did struggle with the MLB ball heading into the WBC last year, so that's to be seen how he adjusts after a full offseason, I would assume, of training with the MLB ball. But I think it's to be seen. But I think considering the fact that they lost Hader, the fact that they added the relievers they did, Yuki Matsui, Wandy Peralta, Usako coming over from the KBO, I think that's going to be interesting to see how their bullpen plays out because they did lose Josh Hader also in free agency. There's also that as well. Last but not least, let's move into the expectations portion of the team profile. What do you believe are the expectations for the Padres entering 2024, Joey?
They want to compete. I mean, I can't imagine they expect to win that division, but they want a wild card, and they want to be in it. Sometimes for teams, when they trade their best guy, things do end up working out. I mean, you trade a star and things just gelled together. I don't think that's going to happen for the Padres, but they certainly have the talent to be in the wild card very easily.
Yeah, I think the goal for them is going to be making the playoffs. I think that's the expectation. It'll be seen, obviously, if they do that. I think the main thing, they have the top-end players to be a playoff team. You have Fernando Tatis. You have Manny Machado. You have Xander Bogaerts. You have Joe Musgrove heading the rotation. And there's a lot of solid players around them, too, like a Ha-Seong Kim, like Jake Cronenworth, like Luis Campusano. Yu Darvish is there. Michael King gets a start. They have a very solid bullpen as well. If you're believers in Yuki Matsui like I am, or Usako coming from the KBO, so it'll be very interesting. I think they're a very interesting team. A lot of moving parts this past offseason. But overall, I think the goal is for them to make the playoffs. For me, I think they will be a competitive team. They did win 82 games last year. I think they will be around that area again this upcoming year. I think overall they will be pushing to make the playoffs in a division that has the Dodgers and then the Diamondbacks, who just won the NL pennant last year. I think it'll be very interesting. But I think that's a good place to wrap it up. Make sure to check out all our links in the description, including our team profile playlist. Padres fans, let us know your thoughts in the comments. And I think that's great. I think I'd like to know your thoughts. I'm a little interested in where you guys think where this team is going to end up in 2024. So for Joey, my name is Derek. Thanks for tuning in to Bleacher Brawls, and we will see you next time.